What's up? This is Damon Varial with my top 5 weekly stock picks. Recently, my microphone has been sounding a bit tinny. You're going to have to bear with me until I buy a new microphone. The content is still there though, so let's get started with the content. My first stock pick is a company called Frontier Communications, ticker FTR. What we see in the last 3 days was something similar to a morning star, but not exactly a morning star, for 2 reasons. First, this middle candlestick is a little too thick, and second, it's a little too high. However, the pattern still looks pretty obvious. What we can expect is probably a bullish trend in the short term, but I chose FTR more than because of its candlestick pattern. Actually, its other indicators look good as well. We're going to go to stockta.com, put in FTR, take a look at its support, take a look at the stochastics and the Fibonacci's. So far we have a lot of small supports, no significant resistances. Based on this chart, you might think it's overbought. The stochastics say that it isn't overbought. In fact, this is called an overbought buried indicator, where it looks overbought, but in fact it's not. If you look at the Fibonacci's, it's usually, the short term at least, is usually a good indication of that momentum sticking. So we can see that this upward trend is likely to stick. It would have been nice to get in early, but we don't know much about this stock. There weren't very good indicators earlier. Nowadays, if you look at the past month, it has risen, but there's still good indication that that rise will continue throughout the next week. That's stock pick number 1. Number 2 is NEM. This is Newmont Mining Corporation. We see a somewhat of a gap. This isn't really a gap because if you look at the wicks of these candlesticks, these 2 candlesticks, you'll see that they almost touch. So this is more of a bullish kicking candlestick, which is also a very good sign that the trend will be upward. But more importantly is the volume. We see that the volume is significantly higher than the previous day's volumes. And the fact that it is almost a gap says that this looks like a breakaway gap, and it might actually break away from this trading region and appear kind of like what we saw in FTR over here. Another good indication, although it might indicate resistance, is the size of this wick. This candlestick's upper shadow goes quite high, and if you actually took the whole size of this candlestick, you'd see it's about the same size of this candlestick, which is about $1 in size. So we can expect from gap theory and candlestick theory that in the following week, this stock, NEM, will likely increase. Now let's take a look at the other indicators. Most importantly for this kind of trade is the support level. We do have support. It looks somewhat strong, not really strong. Down below, we can see the stochastics say that it's a bit overbought, so we might see a dip. But overall, the Fibonacci's are very bullish, which means that the upward momentum we're seeing right now is likely to stick. Let's move on to the third pick, PAL. It's actually a penny stock, but it looks like a good penny stock. It has risen 7% in the past day, but that doesn't mean we're getting in too late. What we see again here is something that looks like a bullish kicking. We have a bearish candlestick followed by a bullish candlestick, and if you looked at the beginning of these 2 trading days, they were equal, except the investor's decision has switched from a bearish one to a bullish one. And this volume, this increase in volume, says that there's probably a news event that brought it upward. We should expect to see it continue to go upward. Which one was this? PAL. If we have the support in place. And indeed we do. We have good supports. Unfortunately, there is a strong resistance level at 0.28, which we're not even close to. So we don't have to worry about that right now. The stock might be overbought, but again, the trend looks like it's in place. So this is a good stock for anyone who doesn't have a lot to invest. This would be a decent penny stock to hold on to for the next week. We'll move on to Plug. Good names in this week's picks, huh? Plug is also a penny stock, technically, if your stock is trading at under $5, you're trading a penny stock. Plug is interesting because it had a gap that looked like a continuation gap. It looked like a gap that would drive the stock upward, but in fact that gap filled. And as I watched it fill, I thought either it's going to even out or it's going to bounce back if we see a significant candlestick pattern, which we did. We see two white soldiers that are associated with a high increase in volume. Now, that's very interesting because we saw that before. Now, if this is a cyclical pattern, we'd see the repeat of what we just saw, but that's unlikely. Generally, if you're seeing a cyclical pattern, it's going to be in a long-term trend, not in a short-term trend. These short-term trends are, you can say it's the psychology of different investors debating on the market price of the stock. And some news event probably drove it up on February 11th. The price might have been overestimated at first, so the investors dropped their opinion of it. And then they realized now it's underestimated and it's going to go back up again. And probably it's going to maintain an upward momentum if we see an overall upward momentum. So let's take a look at Plug and see what the overall momentum is and where the support is. Give it a second. Come on. Okay. Why don't we take a look at the next one while we're waiting? Oh, there we go. Alright, so as you can see, the short-term analysis and the intermediate-term analysis say it's bullish. If you look at the chart, this is a 6-month chart. We don't really care if we're swing trading about what happened in the last half year. But over the last 2 months, it's been slowly going upward. We see a strong level of support at 3.03. We are currently at 3.24. So even if we see a reversal, it's unlikely we lose more than 21 cents. Unfortunately, the trends don't tell us that trend is in place, but I would say overall this is a pretty good pick for a penny stock, simply because these spikes in volume can bring it up quite a distance, and that momentum seems to hold for at least a week. So this is why I'm recommending it for a week-long investment and not a month-long investment. Now for the last one, I actually wanted to recommend this earlier. I looked at it and noted it down, and I thought this would be good for a stock pick for next week. It's Hewlett Packard. I'm putting it wrong. HPQ. This is a good stock for the short term, simply because it broke a level of resistance. What we saw here looked like either a breakaway gap or an area gap. We can't really tell. The volume looks a little bit larger, but you'd have to do a statistical analysis to see if that volume was statistically significantly different in a statistically significant manner than the previous trading volumes. But what's more interesting is that this had a very strong level of resistance / support at about $38, which it broke last week. And although it looks like it's trending sideways, the fact that it's over that support gives us, and it has been over that support for the past few days, gives us a good indication that this stock is more likely to break out upward than anywhere else. Now, I'm not sure about the other trends. We can take a quick look, but the support is really strong, and it allows us to hold on to this stock without much risk with a lot of potential gain. So here it is in the long term. We have that really strong resist at 38.13. It's currently trading about 20 cents above that. The stochastics say that it's bullish, which means here, let me take a look. This is an overbought buried, which means that it looks like it's overbought because of this drop, and now people are buying more. However, it's not statistically. It's not overbought in this case. The momentum is probably in place, though the Fibonacci say it's probably not. So this is kind of a bet rather than an investment, but it's a good bet because we have little risk with this very, very strong support level below us. So those are the 5 stock picks for February 23rd, 2015. Go ahead and double check them. There's something for everyone there. Hopefully next week I'll have a better microphone and you won't hear this tinny voice of mine.